Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Cain. I help people with peripheral neuropathy get out of pain and back to doing the things that they love doing. One of the ways that I help is by connecting you with the right people, products, and services that can all help you get better. Today, we're very lucky to be joined by Craig Andrianos, better known as No Egg Craig. He ended up suffering from peripheral neuropathy back when he was in college as a runner, and he was told he was going to have to take medications for the rest of his life to be able to continue walking, and he eventually figured out through healthy lifestyle choices a way that he can to return to walking and running, doing the things that he loves, and has been medication free for 3 years now. So he's a wonderful story to learn from, and very glad to have you here, Craig. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let's just start off with your story, just in a bit more detail, if you can fill people in on what happened and how you ended up getting yourself better.
All right. So like any good story, to start with, so there I was. In college, I was getting ready for indoor track, and I just noticed, for really no reason at all, I just started getting like slower and slower, like every day, just getting weaker. I was being able to lift a lot less in the weight room, and we couldn't figure out what it was. I got tested for all the normal things that runners get tested for, like mono, anemia, maybe just being burnt out. And actually, looking back, I know that I got CIDP just from a common cold, and a lot of times people get CIDP from either like a cold or like an open wound or something, just like anything that really like makes your immune system get into action. So yeah, I got tested for all those things. All of them came back negative, which is kind of good. Like, you know, saying I'm healthy. But then I'm like, okay, well, I'm also suffering from this thing that I can't diagnose. So I went to my doctor, and my doctor told me that it was just stress. So that was kind of annoying.
I can say, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just getting weaker because I'm stressed. That makes sense. And I also remember specifically, there was one time especially that I was doing laundry in my friend's dorm building. I live off campus, so I could do laundry for free if I just snuck in there. So I was doing laundry, and I went to get my stuff out of the dryer, and the heat made my hands go like all numb and tingly, and I was like, what is this? This is weird. And then like I remember like doing the dishes and like with hot water, and like my hands get numb and tingly, and I was like, what? This is so weird. Like, why is this happening? So then in the back of my mind, I kind of thought that it was something neurological, just because I was getting weaker and I was experiencing numb, tingly sensations. But that at the same time, I was like, no, I'm 19. Like 19-year-olds don't have neurological diseases. Like that doesn't happen. So I was like, no, it's just got to be a coincidence. So I kept trying to run, kept getting much slower. And then I ended up taking some time off of running. And this was, it was about the time of winter break, actually. And by the time I was supposed to go back for the spring semester, things started getting a lot worse, and I eventually got to a neurologist where I was misdiagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, and he said, this is the most mild form I've ever seen. So I was like, well, that's pretty cool. I'd like to hold that record. So initially we thought that I had Guillain-Barré syndrome, and we did like so many like blood tests, MRIs, through all MS. All of them came back negative, and then we eventually did a spinal tap, and that came up positive. I think my cerebral spinal fluid was like I forgot what proteins it was, but the proteins were like 4 or 5 times higher than normal. So they're like, yeah, okay, clearly you have this diagnosis. They're like, okay, cool. But are you familiar with spinal headache?
Spinal headaches?
Yeah.
Yeah, like headaches. I probably not in the way that you're referring to them. So
Okay, I might not have used it that way. But it's like basically when I got my spinal tap, I had like internal leakage of the spinal fluid. So I didn't have enough cerebral spinal fluid. So whenever your head is like above your spinal column, it's extremely like excruciatingly painful. But then like once you lay down, then you're fine.
okay.
So I was pretty much like bedridden for a week in order to like not have any symptoms, like not have massive headaches. And that coincidentally was like the first week of school. So I missed the first week of school, so that would just been a lot to catch back up on. And at the time when we thought that I had Guillain-Barré syndrome, we didn't completely understand it, and we thought maybe at any point I could just become completely paralyzed, because the main difference between CIDP and Guillain-Barré syndrome is CIDP progresses over like 8 weeks or longer, and GBS often affects people like within a day, or at least 4 weeks or less. So we didn't know exactly what would happen. Like, that wouldn't really actually happen, but we were like, if that does happen, I would want to be at home when my family could visit me and stuff like that. So with all those things added up, I just took off that semester and I was just at home. And I just played video games, and I volunteer coached at my high school for track and field. And, I just coached that. And then every day, though, that I'd be at track, I just kept getting weaker and weaker. Eventually, I had to, walk with a cane. And up until that point, I was like, no, it's just because I did too much yesterday, or it's just too hot today, or it's just too cold today. Because in New York, you can kind of have both at the same time, or in the same day at least. And so eventually, it got so bad that I couldn't ignore it. So then I went back, and I just started doing some more research on YouTube and Google, and I found out about chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. And I was like, this actually seems like what I have, not Guillain-Barré syndrome. So then I sent an email to my neurologist and said, hey, I think I actually have CIDP, not GBS. And then he got me in the next day, and he was like, yeah, you're right. Looks like you had CIDP, not GBS. So kind of diagnosed.
It's exactly what you did. Yeah.
Yeah. He felt really bad. He honestly, just, I know that they're very understaffed where he worked. So he was doing the best that he could. And from what I've understood, Guillain-Barré syndrome is more common. So I think, when you hear hooves, you think horses, not zebras. So he just, went with the more common diagnosis. But then, immediately he was like, all right, we want to get you on IVIG. And then I got a bunch of prednisone. I was on 60 milligrams of prednisone every day for a while. And I was doing IVIG. At first you get a loading dose. And then it's just
can you explain to people what IVIG is?
So it stands for intravenous immunoglobulin. And it's basically just donor antibodies because with an autoimmune disease, your own antibodies are attacking whatever it is that affected. And for me, it's a peripheral nervous system. So my own antibodies were attacking my peripheral nervous system. So if I get donor antibodies, they're no longer attacking my peripheral nervous system. Mm-hmm. So it took about 6 weeks for it to actually start working. And up until those 6 weeks, I just actually kept getting worse and worse and worse. I went in there my first time on forearm crutches. And then before my treatment actually started working, I was getting wheeled in there in a wheelchair because I lost 30 pounds of muscle in my legs at that point. Couldn't even walk or anything. So, and I also had numb, tingly sensations all the way up to my hips. I had neuropathy all the way up to my hips and down to my hands. And it was actually even coming down my forehead a little bit. It was just all from all your extremities, just working inwards. So yeah, eventually it just started working because it just takes time to build up in your system. Eventually it just started working. I was doing physical therapy, and I was trying different diets, and I was trying initially it was a just anti-inflammatory diet where you literally just try to memorize what's anti-inflammatory and what's not. It wasn't very specific, no specific diet. So my mom and I just had a list of the things that I could eat and what I couldn't eat. So it was really hard to go family parties. Well, you can eat this, but you can't eat this. It doesn't make sense. So you can't explain it to anybody. So I didn't really like that. So then I eventually tried the Walls diet with Dr. Terry Walls. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but it's sort of like a paleo approach. Mm-hmm. But she's really into organic meat and eating animal organs. Actually, I ate a turkey liver before, and that was gross.
I bet.
Yeah. So I was wanting to try anything because I was I don't want to be on this medication for the rest of my life, because when he told me that I was going to be on IVIG, he was this is kind of a life medication. You're going to be on this for the rest of your life, and it's not a pill that you can pop, intravenous immunoglobulins. You could probably imagine that's an IV. It's an IV drip over the course of 2 to 3 hours. And even if you do it once a month, it doesn't really lead for a very spontaneous life. If you want to go travel the world, you can't do that. You're well, I got to be back by the 13th so I can get my treatment. Right. So I was just I'm only 20 years old. I haven't even left the U.S. I want to be able to do whatever I want. Yeah. So that was a big motivation for why I wanted to just try different diets. And eventually I found a vegan diet, because all the other diets, they weren't really doing anything for me. I remember I was at home on the couch during spring break.
Yeah. Excuse me, Craig, what other diets did you try out? Because I think it'd be important for people, especially with CIDP, to know what did not work for you, leading into what did work for you. So you tried
those 2 diets.
Okay.
Just an anti-inflammatory diet, just a very vague general diet.
Okay.
And the second was the Walls diet.
Okay.
WAHL''S. And that doctor, she has MS, and she helped herself recover a
Okay.
lot by following that protocol. But yeah, well, initially I found a raw vegan diet,
Okay.
and that really helped. So, like I said, I was on the couch during spring break, and I was just like on YouTube, and I just on the side what popped up was like what a raw vegan eats in a day, and I was like, okay, so I clicked on that,
Okay.
and then so I watched it, and I was like, this girl's crazy. So I was like, there's no way she gets enough calories. There's no way she gets enough protein. I was like, no way. Like that's I can't do that. And then for whatever reason, the next day I found myself watching the same video, but I had a completely different mindset. I was like, I could do this. Like, actually looks kind of cool. Like, I should do this. So then I just told my roommate that I was living with, like when I got back, I was like, hey, just so you guys know, I'm going to be following a raw vegan diet. So you're going to see like a case of bananas, like a case or two of oranges. And like, like I'm just going to be eating like stupid amounts of fruits and vegetables. And I noticed within 2 weeks, like all of my prednisone symptoms went away. I noticed that, so I was recovering from the medication, because the good thing about CIDP is that your medication is very effective. So that's good. So the medication was working, but I noticed that my recovery was actually like accelerating. Like just like within those 2 weeks, like my numb and tingly sensations went away even faster. I started getting stronger even faster. And this is all completely anecdotal. Like I can't exactly don't have any benchmarks or anything. But it's just what I noticed. And yeah, I found that raw vegan helped a lot. And then it was that I tried that in the spring, and then I did that all throughout the whole summer of, I want to say 2015. And then by the time winter came around, I was like, okay, well, it's going to be really expensive. I'm only going to be able to eat apples and like oranges and bananas like the whole winter pretty much. So I was like, I'll just start eating some like cooked vegan food. And that was just the same. I didn't experience any symptoms from prednisone. My neuropathy didn't come back. I was still progressing as far as like being able to walk and stuff, and like my strength was still coming back. So cooked, raw, it all seemed to work pretty well for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And where are you at now in terms of diet, in terms of your symptoms, recovery?
So as in terms of my diet, I'm a little bit more flexible. Yesterday I ate a frozen Daya pizza. The other day, well, I still for yesterday I had like a backwards day. I had like frozen pizza for breakfast and then oatmeal and cherries for dinner. Uh, yeah, I mean, like I usually follow like a relatively healthy diet, but I'm not afraid to eat like some junk food when I go to like Thanksgiving or like Christmas coming up. I'll definitely be partaking in some vegan junk food, but it's always vegan. And if I found that like for the most part, as long as I'm pretty healthy, like I don't experience any symptoms or anything. And I would say since I started getting better, I actually haven't experienced any regression, anything coming back at all, which is really nice. I know I've heard of some people with autoimmune diseases, like there's good days and bad days, but like since I've been getting better, it's only been, good days. So as far as my symptoms, now CIDP might be different from like other diseases because, my myelin sheath was stripped away. So that was like the main cause for my neuropathy, my paralysis, stuff like that. So once the myelin gets eaten away, then the nerve axons get eaten away, and the myelin can grow back 100%. But that nerve axon, once that gets hit, like that's hit, you don't recover from that, no matter what. So I do think I have a tiny bit of nerve axon damage. Just like my toes are, I can't really move them individually. I think I can only move them like this, and I don't have the best balance. I don't have very strong calves. Like I have like very weak ankles. Like I love trail running, but I have to be on like very well maintained trails or I'm going to roll an ankle. And I don't have very good circulation and like my feet get freezing.
Okay.
So other than that though, like I don't have any neuropathy. I'm able to run. Like I was a camp counselor at a running camp this past summer, and I was like running with everybody just fine and stuff like that. I started jujitsu not too long ago. I'm able to lift weights and like everything's great.
Yeah, that's such an awesome story, and just something that especially other people with CIDP really need to hear. So I'm real glad we're getting to share this. So you so you went from hardly even able to walk, move around, and now you're darn near 100% recovered and maintaining that and continuing to feel great. Have you heard of many other people with CIDP following a vegan diet and getting similar results?
I have had people contact me saying that they were following a vegan diet, but a lot of times they'll just like contact me and I don't hear from them again, so I don't know exactly. But I know that some people have tried it. I know that there I think are more people who have multiple sclerosis who have tried a vegan diet.
Right.
I know someone who has, and like it's helped. It's not perfect, but it's helped them out.
Uh-huh.
So it hasn't gotten like really too much worse. Um, yeah, I think there's more people who have MS, and also there's actually been a lot of clinical studies with MS, but there's been like as far as diet goes, there's been really no studies with CIDP, so it's hard to. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, there's just not enough research being done in the field of diet and how that can affect people with their neuropathies. I've actually come across one quality study that was done. It was done on diabetic neuropathy, and they followed a plant-based diet, and their neuropathies ended up getting real well. There's I think quite a bit of research in terms of just diabetes, irrespective of the neuropathy, but for neuropathy specifically. Yeah, the only quality research I've come across was on a plant-based diet, and people got significantly better off of it. So, yeah, and I know I've read through some of your followers' comments on your YouTube videos. I've seen some other people saying, like, my son's got CIDP, and he's starting to do the vegan diet, and he's starting to make some improvements. So it's yeah, definitely something that that I strongly encourage people to at least consider doing a vegan diet that have neuropathy. So what are your thoughts well, first off, let's define plant-based, because I've heard it defined as mostly fruits and vegetables, no refined carbohydrates, and maybe sparing amounts of animal products. Have you heard it defined as that, or is it more no animal products at all?
I think it just depends on the person that you talk to, because like some people will say that like plant-based is just a diet based on plants, and other people are like, no, it's 100% plant-based. I think they just don't like the term veganism. And as far as like no refined products or anything like that, usually when I hear people talk about that, it's when they talk about a whole food plant-based diet. You can follow a plant-based diet that's like, I don't know, soda and Doritos and Oreos, you know.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So what are your thoughts in terms of, I mean, I guess trying to step outside of your own shoes and what's worked best for you and your CIDP, and just for people as a whole in terms of what's healthier. How would you compare vegan diet that maybe allows some cheat days where you can have refined carbs and the heated up diet pizza or other kind of vegan junk food versus a whole foods plant-based diet? How would you, and maybe has some sparing amounts of meat products, but let's say it's like the grass-fed meat products and the wild-caught fish. How would you compare those from just a general health standpoint?
So I know that when you have, say whether it's eggs or if it's like a small amount of like you said wild caught fish or something like that, usually this when you have none and when you just add in a little bit, or if you have like animal products all the time and you add in a little bit, when you have none and just add in a little bit, you have much higher levels of like cholesterol, and like it just affects it a lot more. Than like say someone who already had high cholesterol and add another egg. It's not going to do anything. As far as I'm concerned, I think that you're going to be healthier if you just eat no animal products. But if you know yourself and you know that if you're gonna try to do that and you're not going to be able to stick with it, well, do what's best for you. Like if that means that you have like a cheat day once a week, but the rest of the time you're good, then I guess that's what works for you. Just whatever works for you long term. And like everyone's going to be different as far as like their preferences. But if you start doing it for a week and then you never do it again because you tried to go like 100%, that wasn't best for you.
Yeah, absolutely, and I like that answer because that's I got certified as a health coach, and I think that I'm a doctor of chiropractic, but I almost think that the health coaching has enabled me to help out people even more. Just because it's one thing to tell someone what they need to do in terms of diet or exercise, what have you. It's another thing to help them figure out what's actually going to work best for them, sustainable, that they enjoy doing, and works for them. So. I'm very much for that kind of customize what works for the person, and they can do on a long-term basis.
Yeah, because I mean, like all the science, as far as I'm concerned, says plant-based 100%. That is absolutely what's best. But if you're not going to stick with it, like that, like you have to enjoy your food, otherwise you're going to hate your life.
Yeah. So I'm gonna challenge you just a little bit on this notion that everything that says that plant-based is the best, or maybe not complete challenge, but maybe say that I personally haven't come across enough compelling research for me to feel comfortable saying that. And the reason why I feel that way is I've not seen any studies that compare a, let's call it a vegan plant-based diet. I haven't seen anything that compares that and a healthy one where they're supplementing vitamin B12, anything else. They're being smart about it. So take that, compare the same diet to just a little bit of animal products that are of the healthy, higher quality, the grass-fed, the wild-caught, those, and the small amounts, and comparing their health outcomes. I was at Veg Fest in San Francisco, it was maybe a month ago, and I was asking all the people there, like, do you know of any kind of research about this? And no one knew of any research along those lines that would say for sure, like, having absolutely no animal product is definitely better than having some. And obviously it's on an individual basis. I mean, for you, obviously, you're much better, no animal products at all. That's worked very well for you. But for people as a whole, to generally say that the plant-based vegan is definitely better than even a little bit of the healthy grass-fed. And this is just from the health standpoint. I mean, the whole, ethics standpoint, environmental standpoint, that's a different conversation, which hopefully we'll get into. But just from a health standpoint, I mean, have you come across any research, or do you have any, what's a conviction that no animal product is definitely better than even a little bit of the grass-fed, the wild-caught mixed in?
So I think that would be a great study if they could do like that specific thing that you're talking about. That would be great. I would be really interested in hearing about that too. The closest thing that I've read to about that was a study with people who have multiple sclerosis. They were following a very strict plant-based diet, and they started doing much better. And then they followed them like 10, 20, 30, 40 years later. And the people who like really stuck with it were doing really well. Like some of them were like old people, and they were climbing like mountains. Like they were doing crazy things that like you don't expect like an older person to do, especially someone who has MS. And then they found from their research that even just 8 grams a day of saturated animal fat. Now, I don't know if that's organic or if it's not, which I know that's what you were talking about. They found that those people, like just 8 grams a day, had a significant decline in like their quality of health and just quality of life in general. As far as I know, that's the only one that I've come across that's like the small amount. Other than just knowing that, like I was talking about earlier with the cholesterol, like if you just add a little bit of cholesterol, it raises a lot if you have none.
Right.
So those are like the only 2 things that I know of anyway.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, hopefully one day they'll do the research. And when and it was kind of sad though. When I was at Veg Fest, I asked he's like the top guy there, and he said that no, they haven't done this research, and he thinks that neither side would be that compelled to invest the money to do the research, because neither side thinks that there's it's going to cost a lot of money, but also they feel like if it's just that marginal, slight difference, the pro animal consumption people, they don't think that there'd be enough benefit for them to really want to fund it, and then the vegans and maybe don't think there's enough benefit for them to want to fund it, because it's just a little bit animal product. Maybe is it going to make that big of a difference one way or another? That was kind of his take on it. But anyways, I normally try to keep these conversations, specifically revolving around neuropathy. But since we do have, someone who's a vegan and quite passionate about that lifestyle, I think it is that at least for this one episode, exploring the ethics of our choices in terms of how we eat. So since you initially came across veganism as something to help you with your CIDP, and since then I'm sure you've come across more reasons that have contributed to your desire to want to lead this vegan lifestyle. What are these other kind of ethical or moral implications that have come in and sunk in with you and really made you want to even more immerse yourself in this lifestyle?
Yeah. So it's pretty much just like what you said earlier, like animals and the environment. That's like other than health reasons, those are really my only other motivations for it. And I would say I was probably vegan for about 6 months before I became an ethical vegan, because like I said, I just went vegan for like my own selfish reasons, and I I wasn't really interested in watching any of the horrors of like what goes on in the animal industry, because I was like, look, I'm already vegan. I don't need any convincing. I'm already doing it. And then like I watched this. It's like a pretty short documentary. I think it's like an hour long. It's just on Netflix, and it's called Vegucated. And that was really cool because it touched mostly on like the health benefits. It also touched on like the what goes on in the animal industry and the environment. So it kind of encompasses like all of them. But I had no idea what was going on in like the animal industry, like specifically. And I remember like that was the first one I watched. And, like I cried. Like I was watching like what happened, like all the baby chickens and like the cows and like all like it's just so much worse than I think the average person realizes.
Yeah.
And I know that like most people are very good people. Like they don't want to contribute to that. Which is why I think there's a lot of like pushback and people are like, no, don't show me that, because they don't want to know that that's what they're doing. I genuinely think the best in people.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm a big lover of people, but of I guess what I perceive as the best opportunity for most people to be less blissfully ignorant and just really be more cognizant of how they can do more good. I think the vegan lifestyle is the most accessible to most people. So. Yeah, right on. Cool. Well, I've really enjoyed having this conversation. Let's come back to the nutrition topic here. So, say hypothetically, say someone has diabetes, and they could either consume a vegan a vegan diet that has some refined carbohydrates, or let's say like a ketogenic diet that's going to have animal products, but also little to no refined carbohydrates. What would be your take on that in terms of what a diabetic person would benefit more so one way or another?
Just from the science that I've looked at, I would say that the diabetic who going like with the plant-based approach would do better. But if someone does that and they're doing well with it, like I'm not going to argue with the results. Like the results don't lie. But just from the science that I've seen, it looks like the vegan diet would work better.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've seen research supporting both, seen plant-based, seen supporting vegan, seen supporting the Paleolithic. So cool.
Yeah, I mean, I see people turn their life around with like a paleo diet. Like, who am I to argue with the results?
Exactly. Yeah. So what it all comes down to. Cool. So for people that have CIDP, any other recommendations that you would give for them besides considering doing a vegan diet?
So number one, obviously, is medication. Like I said earlier, the medication is very effective. Sometimes it takes like 6 weeks or 8 weeks or something for it to start kicking in. But if they just know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, just like keeping your head up. I've heard too. I mean, you've probably heard before too that the placebo effect, or just believing that what you're doing is going to work. Like that works too. Like because I like the whole time, like I was just like so positive and happy. Like even when I was in a wheelchair, because I was like, even though I'm in a wheelchair, like I can see, I can hear, I have friends and family who love me, I can read, I have access to the internet. Like I live in the U.S. where like if I was say in I don't know Ethiopia or something, like I wouldn't even be able to afford a wheelchair. Like I have a friend who grew up in Ethiopia, and he said that like they have this like push them around in wheelbarrows or something like that. Like you get around in like very different ways, but like there's no treatment.
Yeah.
So like I was like I have so many things going for me. So like keeping a positive mindset, having your getting treatment. One thing I got was massages. Massages I think help like with recover for anything like physical anyway, as far as like your muscles go or your nerves, like just increasing blood flow and like nutrients to wherever's being affected. Physical therapy was super helpful. I had a physical therapist that saw like twice a week. I think those are like the main things that I would say outside of like nutrition.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, and I cannot encourage people that do have CIDP to follow you enough. I think that your mindset, the research that you've done, your story, I think it's just such a great thing for people that have that condition to really check in with you. And obviously anyone who's vegan and watching as well, I think you should definitely follow him as well. He's got a lot of fun material that you post on social media, lots of great recipes, and I guess kind of showcasing your life, which seems pretty fun.
I just try to show them that like anyone can be vegan. It's not hard. Anyone can do it. If I can do it, anyone can do it. I don't really know that much about cooking, and even I can do it.
Yeah. Cool, cool. All right. Where can people find you?
So you can definitely find me on YouTube at No Egg Craig, Instagram at No Egg Craig, Facebook at No Egg Craig. I don't post as often there. But yeah, those would be the three most common places I would be.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Any final words for the listeners?
Uh, for the listeners, anyone, if they have CIDP or if they have neuropathy, and I'm sure you know this too, that the best kept secret in modern medicine is that given the right conditions, the body can heal itself. So just give your body the right conditions, and you'll be able to heal.
Awesome. I love it. I love it, Craig. And that's what I'd like to leave people with too, is that you can get yourself better. You just stay relentless, continue to educate yourself, continue to try different things, and eventually you'll find something that helps you feel better, just as Craig here did. So cool. Well, thank you very much for doing the interview here, and hope our paths cross again, Craig.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. All right. Take care, everyone.